This is one of the longest standing feuds in history. Tom and Jerry have been in a never-ending battle to destroy each other for longer than I have been alive. It didn't even matter what was going on. They would drop everything just to have a shot at the other guy and try and rip his throat out. It was pure animosity and non-stop violence catered for a younger audience. Not to mention all the memes that have come out of this show. And with these two combatants waging war for who knows how long, the fans of all this content have come together to try and find out what is really going on behind the show. This is why today I'm bringing you the top 10 scary Tom and Jerry theories. Welcome back, Most Amazing Top 10 family. I am, of course, your host, Shade Arena. If any of you at home want to wear some Most Amazing Top 10 gear, then you should check out the link in the description below and use the offer code MA10, which will give you $5 off. And make sure you stick around until the end of this video because I'm going to be doing some more pet shoutouts, which you guys love so much. Remember, if you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram. Without taking any longer, let's get into this list. At number 10, we have Tom and Jerry as Nazi propaganda. Some of you might think this theory is a little forced, but there's actually a lot of evidence. Now, the show is obviously about a never-ending battle of a cat and mouse, but what is the common outcome of these encounters? Well, they usually end with Jerry outsmarting Tom, even though he's a little mouse and he has to get away from a big scary cat. But the names Tom and Jerry could be referenced to the British military troops, which were referred to as Tommies, and the Germans, which were referred to as Jerrys. The reason that Jerry is always able to outwit Tom is because the secret message in the show is that the Germans are smarter than the Brits. And to add a little bit more fuel to the fire, the show came out in 1940, so there's a good chance that the creators knew all about this army slang. Perhaps the show has been spewing Nazi propaganda this whole time. At number 9, we have The Show Is in Hell. What would hell be like? I mean, I understand it's supposed to be some sort of great suffering where we're tortured and beyond what we could possibly imagine. Well, what would be a worse torture than being a cat who can't even catch a mouse? You do whatever you can to catch this mouse, but it always slips through your fingers and it's always able to outsmart you at every turn. Now, I'm not saying that the show takes place in a cat's hell, although if any animal could go to hell, it would be cats. They are just rude all the time. But what I am saying is that this is the eternal torture for some person. Basically, someone used to be a person, then they got turned into a cat in hell. Because Tom and Jerry live in the worst version of Groundhog Day I've ever seen. Unless you're Jerry, then it's pretty bang on. There is also a big bad dog that chases Tom around, who is one of the only figures in the show that Tom is afraid of. This could be the representation of Cerberus, who is a three-headed dog and the guardian of the underworld in Greek mythology. Or maybe cats, mice, and dogs have just been at each other's throats for so long that this is the most logical step in creating new characters. At number 8, we have their feud brought the end of the world. These two are always at each other's throats and want to kill one another no matter what the cost. Well, some people think that they eventually got their way. This is why they stopped making new episodes. I mean, the real answer is that the show was just finished its run and they didn't have to make any new content anymore. This kind of plays into the theory that the show had something to do with the Nazis or World War II. Some fans speculate that the show took the same course as the war. The conflict between these two eventually built to the point where there was a massive battle where one of them develops an atomic bomb to blow up the other person and ends up killing everyone around them. At number 7, we have the science experiment. So how are these two so smart? They are able to navigate the whole world, use tools, and even come up with complex plans even though they're just a cat and mouse. Well, some people think that it's all part of an experiment gone wrong. The idea is that Tom used to be a person. He was a scientist that was constantly using the same mouse for experiments. He wanted to see how far he could increase the intelligence of this mouse. Eventually, he was very successful and he made a mouse with genius level intellect. The mouse was actually so smart that it was able to knock out the human version of Tom and then implant his brain to a cat's body. This is how the two of them are so smart, but why Jerry is a little bit smarter, and why the two are constantly trying to kill each other at the drop of a hat. They don't need any motivation because there is a long-standing hate between the two of them. At number 6, we have failure runs in the family. Is there a Warner Bros. Entertainment universe? If there is, this theory could be true. The idea is that Tom from Tom and Jerry and Sylvester from Looney Tunes are part of the same family. They both do the same thing. They're both cats that are trying to chase down something that they can never get their hands on. It's this one little animal that always escapes them, always outsmarts them, and perhaps they always go back to the same family reunion and have discussions about how depressed and unsuccessful they are at catching these little critters. Number 5, we have Jerry Gets Caught. With any show like this, you wonder what would happen if the underdog finally won. What would happen if Tom actually caught Jerry? Well, apparently the cartoonists for the show made an episode where this does happen. However, they did this while no one was looking and made the episode very gruesome. Legend says that someone found it, fired the cartoonist, and then took possession of the work, and this episode is now in an unknown location. If this is true, this piece would possibly be worth millions of dollars. At number 4, we have Tom is on speed. Why is he going crazy all the time? Why can't he just chill out for 2 minutes? I get it that Jerry is a mouse, but I bet if you asked him to chill, he would probably be down to hang out. Like, peace and love, man. So the backbone of this theory is basically Tom's whole demeanor towards Jerry and the whole world, really. He is so reactive. He doesn't sit back for moments. He doesn't let anything just sink in. As soon as something triggers him, he's off and running, and usually this is how he ends up getting outsmarted by Jerry. Tom is also moving through the world at 1,000,000 miles per hour. He never slows down for anything. It's like he's constantly revved up or on some sort of substance. He's angry all the time, and aggression can be a side effect of speed or other amphetamine-like drugs. So maybe if we took this little tomcat to rehab, he would be a nice little kitty who wants to spend the rest of his time with his little mouse pal. At number 3, we have it's a metaphor for heroin. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the expression chasing the dragon, but it's in reference to the first time you ever get high from injecting heroin. It's apparently the most intense experience you can have on opioids. Some people who get addicted to heroin are always trying to chase down that first high, trying to bring back that feeling that blew them out of this world. Well, what is the show Tom and Jerry? It's a cat that so badly wants to catch a mouse, but he never can. No matter how hard he tries, no matter how close he gets, or how crazy of a mousetrap he builds, he never is able to get what he wants. Maybe this is true. Maybe the creator of the show was struggling with a drug addiction, and this was a problem he expressed through a kid's cartoon, or it's just a cartoon and we're looking way too deep into this. At number 2, we have Jerry is the evil one. Throughout the show, it always seems like Tom is the big bad cat and Jerry is the little cunning mouse who's able to outsmart his larger adversary. But when you sit down and actually watch the show, it's Tom usually just trying to live his life. He will be either teaching a little cat how to be a cat or trying to seduce some lovely lady cat, but then he'll do something that inconveniences Jerry, and instead of Jerry just coming out to talk with him and deal with the problem, he drops an anvil on his head. Like, dude, talk about overreacting. You need to chill out a little bit and talk about your problems. On several occasions, it's Jerry who instigates the conflict, and if he was actually a sweet little mouse who was constantly at a disadvantage, then why would he always be trying to start problems? I think Tom might be the peaceful one and he just wants to be left alone. And for the number 1 spot, we have Blue Cat Blues. This is probably the most famous conspiracy theory when it comes to Tom and Jerry. There's an episode of the famous show that is titled Blue Cat Blues. It opens with Tom sitting on train tracks and a narrator saying, in a few minutes, it will all be over. And Tom looks terrible. He has huge bags under his eyes, he has stubble all over his face, and he is the saddest we have ever seen him. It then cuts to a flashback and we get to see what has turned Tom into this sad sack. We see that he just had his heart broken by this lady cat. He did everything in his power to try and woo her, but she decided to take off with another. So Jerry comes in to comfort him. And then we see a flashback about Jerry's love life, and we see how she left him for another mouse. So the two of them are now depressed, sitting on train tracks waiting for the train to come in. Obviously, we don't see them die, but many fans say this is where the show ends, that the two died that day taking their own lives on those train tracks. Alright everyone, that has been our list, and as promised, I'm going to be doing some more pet shoutouts. Remember, if you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram. I pick new pets every day, so if you don't get picked one day, you can message back another day. I usually pick who messaged last, so if you don't get picked, you can just message me again and again, as many times as you want. And without taking any longer, let's get into this list. To kick things off, we have 2 bearded dragons. One of these bad boys is named Hiccup, and the other one is named Astrid. Both of them look cool as hell. Next, we have Oreo, who has to be one of the cutest little hamsters I've ever seen. After that, we have Gus, who will just melt your heart. Cuteness, it's almost unfair how cute this little dude is. Then we have Lulu, who's giving me some pretty hefty side eye right now. She's like, what do you think you're doing? That's the vibe I'm getting from this cat. And to close it out, we have another bearded dragon whose name is Gizmo. And that is everything we have for you today, guys. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Until next time, I've been your host, Chaderana, and keep watching Tom and Jerry cartoons. They're great. Bye.